It was born on the racetrack and unleashed on the streets. The Audi V12 TDI wasn't just an engine, it was a diesel-powered monster ripped straight from Le Mans and shoved into an SUV. It defied logic, shattered expectations, and roared with the kind of torque that could twist the earth. This wasn't just Audi showing off, it was a love letter to diesel performance, written in smoke and horsepower. So why did Audi build a 500 horsepower diesel V12? And more importantly, why did it disappear almost overnight? This is the insane story of the engine that should never have existed. Audi wanted to be accepted as technologically superior. This was the primary focus of Audi at the time, and it meant a lot to them. These crazy V12 diesel engines were supposed to be their ticket to glory. Audi had a long and rich history with diesel, and so it just made sense that their new monsters would be powered by diesel. The choice wasn't so simple, however. During this fresh new era of the automobile industry, a lot was changing, and Audi was beginning to stand tall against industry giants like BMW. To get the upper hand in racing, Audi wanted to do something big, something that would put the brand in a league of its own, with no one to match their standards. Diesel was already respected in Europe. The people were very well aware of the exceptional efficiency and the insane torque that diesel engines could deliver. Yet still, no one had tried to brand these extremely capable beasts a sporty or premium option. Audi saw the situation for what it was, a fantastic opportunity. Audi had very specific goals for these engines in mind. They wanted the engines to produce the amount of power that would be needed to compete in a full-fledged endurance race. They were looking to control fuel consumption to cut down pit stops. They wanted these engines to last at least 24 hours without failure, and they were planning to do all of this and also design the engine to be compact and lightweight for the best possible chassis integration. Audi was no longer playing by the rules set for them. They were aiming for perfect innovation, and they were determined to achieve it. Audi worked closely with Bosch to design a next-generation common rail injection system that could deliver high injection pressures of up to 1800 to 2000 bar. They decided to use piezoelectric injectors that would respond faster and way more precisely compared to the conventional injectors being used at the time. This system was designed to improve combustion efficiency, power, and torque while simultaneously cutting down noise, smoke, and emissions. The cylinder heads were crafted with care as well. Audi used lightweight aluminum alloy for these cylinder heads and added reinforced areas to avoid excessive heating while increasing durability. The engineers designed complex combustion chamber shapes through computational fluid dynamics to achieve better air-fuel mixing and complete proper combustion. The brand was serious about these engines, and it was obvious. These engines were equipped with twin turbochargers featuring variable geometry technology. This technology was terrific for the engines, as it allowed for the adjustment of the boost pressure according to the engine's speed. This reduced turbo lag enabled these V12 diesel engines to deliver immense power and torque at very low RPMs. The diesel engines were used to this, but the technology was now mastered in the V12 format. If one were to say that Audi was borderline obsessive about these engines, it may not be wrong. The engines were engineered in detail. Audi was not messing around. All parts were machined with extremely tight tolerances, often down to the micron level. This was done to ensure that the engine would function perfectly under extreme pressure. Crankshafts, pistons, and valves were carefully balanced to perfection, reducing vibrations and allowing the engine to run smoothly. And these engines were being hand-assembled in the cleanest possible rooms by experts who would double-check each component with precision instruments and laser tools. These bad boys were designed to perfection to take the world by storm, and that is what they did. Audi had already been conquering Le Mans with their petroleum engines, but this was different. This was something Audi could call their own. In 2006, Audi introduced the world to their newest invention, the Audi R10 TDI. Equipped with the Audi V12 TDI engine, was unleashed and went on to win the very first race. Audi was the first team in history to win at Le Mans with a diesel engine. And this was just the start. The following year, Audi came back with an improved version. Nothing big, just minor changes. However, the competitors were still not ready. Audi won once again. The second win was proof that Audi was really onto something, and their success was no fluke. In 2008, Audi was as confident as ever. They came in with their super engine and won the Le Mans again. However, this was the last time Audi would use these engines in racing. These engines were retired from racing by Audi, but their story was far from over. Audi had seen what their engines could do, and the world had witnessed it. The brand was not going to let an engine so legendary die out. For racing, Audi had moved on to newer technologies, but still the V12 diesel engines were hungry for more. Audi decided to shift the focus of these juggernauts towards the roads. So began the tale of road cars and the V12 diesel engines. After 2008, Audi sought to prove its dominance on the streets. And there was no better way to do it than letting its insane engines speak for themselves. Audi aimed to improve the image of diesel. They wanted their customers to know that they could get comfort and luxury along with immense power and efficiency. Audi designed the Q7 6.0-liter V12 TDI, a luxury SUV with incredible power. The engine was heavily inspired by the R10's 5.5-liter V12 TDI, but it had to be refined for the road. The V12s would produce a crazy amount of heat, so to counter the heat, Audi installed 2 intercoolers and additional radiators. The engines were still very heavy, so the chassis and suspension of the car had to be upgraded to keep up. The Q7 was still a luxury vehicle. The interior was crafted from premium leather. The car featured parking sensors, a reversing camera, and a driver assistance system. The car wasn't just some high-performance SUV. This was a luxury monster running diesel. Yet still, as all things do, the V12 diesel engines had to die. These engines were designed to be perfect. Audi did their best, but everything has its flaws. The engines were running on diesel. So whatever the engineers did, the engines were still heavier than their petroleum counterparts. Due to the weight, engineers made hefty upgrades to the chassis and suspension of the cars. This compensated for the engine's weight, but there was still weight imbalances and issues with agility. The insane amounts of heat these engines produced were even worse. The heat needed to be catered. Audi installed radiators and cooling systems for the job, but these additions increased the weight and drag of the cars. The engines were obviously extremely powerful, but they were too big for the Le Mans prototype monocoque, and these engines left little room for aerodynamic optimization. These beasts were not cheap to make either. Twin turbos, the upgrades, high-pressure injectors, and massive torque management systems. None of these were cheap. Maintenance and repairs weren't easy on the pockets either. Regardless, Audi was still pulling through. And despite their incredible power, the fans were not very happy with these engines. The fans often complain that these engines may be powerful, but they are just not dramatic enough. The people wanted chaos. They wanted noise. They wanted roars. But the V12 diesels just couldn't provide that. Fans would also complain that Audi has an advantage over others. Words like overpowered and unfair were frequently thrown around. Soon the BOP came for Audi though. The balance of performance and regulations was designed to nerf Audi's V12 diesel engines, as they were simply too strong. Boost limitations were issued, and since diesel engines relied heavily on boosts, they suffered. Air restrictions were added, caps on how much the engine could breathe to reduce the horsepower limits of these monsters. The fuel tank size was reduced to counter the fewer pit stops Audi was making. Even the refueling speed was artificially reduced to match that of the petroleum-powered cars. These restrictions were necessary from a sporting perspective, however, they weakened Audi severely. Many fans think that if it hadn't been for these restrictions, Audi would have dominated the class for ages. Audi was still trying to make the most out of the situation. They moved on to crafting a luxurious beast powered by their incredible V12 diesel engines. But that field was not free of problems either. The materials and parts Audi was using to make these beautiful vehicles were rare and expensive. The emissions regulations were burdensome to follow for engines that ran on diesel, as they used complex emission systems prone to clogging and failure over time. Engineers at Audi put in immense efforts and hard work into making these SUVs, to the point that the SUVs were full-blown rocket ships. The engineering was simply too complicated for repairs. The fuel consumption was high, at least for diesel, with the luxury beast only delivering 17 to 20 miles per gallon. And while Audi had numerous problems to deal with, the market didn't look very promising either. There was an evident shift toward electric vehicles, EVs, and hybrid vehicles. It seemed like there just wasn't room for the beast. Audi was not planning on latching on to a sinking ship. This was it for the Q7s as well. The V12 diesel engines that Audi so dearly loved had to go away for good. The V12 engines quietly retired from the market. Perhaps it was due to the cost, or maybe the regulations had taken them out. But the engines that had put Audi on a pedestal were now retired. Any chances of these diesel-powered beasts coming back were buried deeper by the infamous Dieselgate scandal of 2015. These bad boys are likely to remain sleeping for a long, long time now. The V12 diesel engines changed the fate of Audi and dominated their class for years, making the story of this remarkable engine one that will forever be remembered. For more stories like these, subscribe to our channel. Let us know your thoughts on these beasts in the comments below. See you soon!